Hi, yogis. Welcome to Sunday Sutras, your weekly dose of practical yogic wisdom. My name is Kelsey Delane. I teach yoga and guide yoga teachers in aligning their lifestyle and their teaching with yoga philosophy. Today, we're going to talk about friendship and what the Yoga Sutras have to say about how we can show up in our relationships for the most joy. Before we dive in, I just want to thank you so much, whether you're showing up live or watching this on replay. And as you sign in, do me a favor and give a shout out to a friend that you treasure, that you are grateful for the way that they show up in your friendship. Hey, Hannah. So just use this as an opportunity to give someone some praise, to thank them for being the kind of friend that they are. So give a little shout out in the comments as you sign on. So one of the reasons that this topic is on my heart right now is because I am really blessed with solid friendships in my life. I have a really solid group of women that I can call on when I need them and that I have walked through life with and have mad respect for the kind of friend that they are to me. And it really encourages me to show up in my friendship as my best self. And lucky for us, yoga life doesn't provide training or schooling in how to be a good friend. And we go to school, we learn all these skills that are supposed to support us in being successful adults, but unfortunately, there isn't a guidebook that maps out how to show up in friendship. And because of that, I see a lot of pitfalls. I have experienced friendships that haven't been full of joy and have, either from the way I've shown up or the way the other person has shown up, have either deteriorated or caused pain in my life. And lucky for us, the Yoga Sutras provide a roadmap. So they walk us through 5 principles called the yamas that we can use as sort of light posts along the way of friendship. And I want to talk about those yamas today in the context of one of my most treasured friendships with Stevie. Some of you who know me personally know this amazing woman. I have known Stevie since I can remember. So she's almost like a sister. We call each other our forever soulmate sisters because we have walked side by side through so many of the different seasons of our life. And we often laugh at ourselves because we constantly tell each other how grateful we are for the friendship that we have because it is so incredibly quality. And that is a treasure that we want to make sure that we acknowledge on a regular basis. And I believe that the reason that Stevie and I have this really special bond is because both of us show up as the kind of friends that are talked about in the Yoga Sutras. Not just one of us, but both of us show up in this friendship practicing these principles, and it provides a safe space for us to each be ourselves. And so today, Stevie, this Sunday Sutras is for you, girl. I love you. This season of life for Stevie and I has been the most challenging because we are walking completely different paths. Right now, I'm walking in a season of life that's extra full of abundance and joy and love and prosperity. And Stevie is walking through grief and loss and pain. And it can be so challenging as a friend to walk alongside someone who is experiencing such a radically different reality at the moment. And I have so much respect for the way that Stevie has been able to demonstrate the qualities of the yamas in the way that she's approached our friendship as we've moved into this season. And I hope and I believe that she feels the same way. So one of the promises, so to speak, of practicing the Yoga Sutras, it says in Sutra 248 that if you practice these things, one of the results is that you will no longer be disturbed by duality. You will no longer be disturbed by duality. What does that mean? To me, what that means is that you become comfortable holding two seemingly opposite things in the same space. So with the example of my friendship with Stevie right now, both of us, although she doesn't practice yoga nearly as often as I do, but she is definitely a yogi at heart. So regardless of how often she goes to a yoga mat or a yoga studio and practices yoga, this woman practices the principles. And so both of us are able to allow for sadness and pain to exist alongside of joy and hope. And that ability to hold space for two opposing things in my own life and heart has been such a blessing, because life is not black and white. You can love someone and be angry with them. You can be grieving and experience joy. These things can coexist if we open our heart to them. And so that is one of the most treasured qualities of my friendship with Stevie, is that we're able to allow space for these really different paths. And I so honor that and feel blessed to have a friend like her. And the yamas, the principles, the social restraints is what they are called, that Patanjali, the author of the Yoga Sutras, maps out for us. The yamas are the very first principle or path to yogic living. And I believe that that is worthy of pausing to reflect on. Chapter 2 of the sutras is for the beginner yogi. You would think that chapter 1 would be, but it's actually chapter 2 is like Yoga 101. And in chapter 2, we get the 8-limb path, Ashtanga Yoga. And these 8 limbs are intended to be practiced in order, starting with the yamas. So Patanjali created a system where the priority, step 1, is learn how to relate to others. And I think that's really, really powerful. Positive psychology tells us that our happiness is largely dependent on the quality of our relationships. And I believe that this is one of the main reasons why Patanjali would start a path to more sustained joy with how are you showing up in relationships. So with the yamas, we have ahimsa. Ahimsa, is the opposite of, and himsa is harm. So this is the opposite of harm, and it's often translated as nonviolence. Personally, I love to frame these principles in the positive. So rather than nonviolence, I use the language loving kindness. This is deep care for and respect of the other. And what a beautiful quality in a friend, to be able to exhibit loving kindness. And just this weekend, I had the privilege yesterday of guiding a group of students through a training in Reiki. And it was so touching to have a group of people in my home all sharing in this act of loving kindness, where there was attention and there was care and there was respect for one another. And that alone sets a tone for safety and being yourself. And then following ahimsa, we have satya. Satya is truthfulness and it's integrity. So when you pair these two things together, you are set up so well for success in relationships and in friendships in particular. The beauty of my relationship with Stevie is there is so much ahimsa present. There's so much loving kindness present that when truth needs to be spoken, it's safe to do so. And the way that we've been able to navigate from 3 years old to 30 years old and stay friends is not because we haven't had conflict, right, girl? It is not because we haven't had conflict. It is because we have spoken the truth to each other when we have had conflict, and we have done it from a place of love so that we're safe. And when it's delivered lovingly, it can be heard. The truth can be heard. And the other part of satya, it's not just about speaking the truth, but living aligned with your word, right? Having integrity. So being the kind of friend that you say you're going to be, showing up when it counts, has really, really made an impact in my friendship with Stevie. And following satya, we have brahmacharya. So brahmacharya is moderation. Moderation in the indulgence of ourselves, really, in the pursuit of the highest good. So, this is it's the opposite of self-centeredness, in my opinion, or selfishness, because brahmacharya, you're not just practicing moderation for the sake of moderation. Hey, Marlene, you're practicing moderation in service of the greater good. So recognizing essentially kind of where you land, hey, Isa, where you land or what your role is in the bigger picture, understanding that the world doesn't revolve around you. It's not just about indulging in pleasure in all of your senses. The reason that we practice the yamas isn't because of morals or ethics, right? Yoga is not a religion. It's psychology. It's a cosmology, a way of seeing the world. And so with brahmacharya, practicing moderation in indulgences like sex or alcohol or food, it's not because it's wrong to indulge. According to the sutras, it has nothing to do with rightness or wrongness. It's not righteousness that we're after. We're after joy. And according to this wisdom teaching, if you practice moderation in service of the highest good, then you will have more joy and less suffering. So that is the why behind these things that we're practicing. And with my friendship with Stevie, one of the ways that I feel this practice of moderation is even just in how we engage with one another in conversation. We live far apart. She's in Colorado, I'm in California. And when we have phone calls or FaceTime, there is this sense of equal distribution of time listening and being heard, that neither one indulges ourselves as the center of the friendship, but instead we share in the service of the highest good, which is our friendship, right? We're both invested in showing up in a way that maximizes, hey, Britt, that maximizes the joy in our friendship. And I am so grateful for that. The next is asteya. So awe is the opposite of stealing, so non-stealing, which, again, I like to frame these in the positive, right? So instead of non-stealing, how about generosity? And not misappropriating something that is not yours, and sort of robbing someone of their experience, of the spotlight. There's so many ways to practice non-stealing or generosity, asteya, in a friendship that has nothing to do with material things or actually being a thief. And this shows up so much in the space that we offer the other person. When your friend is celebrating, Practicing asteya would look like celebrating fully with them, right? Rather than rob them of the experience of celebrating by minimizing, invalidating, or comparing. Like, those people, we all have met the kind of person where you tell them something amazing that's happened in your life, and then they jump on the bandwagon. They say like something even more amazing that happened in their life. That is not practicing asteya. So providing space when they celebrate to celebrate with them, and also providing space when they grieve to grieve with them. So rather than minimizing or invalidating or comparing your suffering with the other, asteya gives room. It gives plenty of room for that person to feel and experience what they're experiencing without robbing them of the dignity to walk their own path, without trying to fix it, without trying to control it. Because when we step outside of our boundary and we attempt to control or manipulate or fix things for other people, we rob them of the dignity to find the strength to do it themselves. I just posted on Instagram a couple days ago a beautiful quote from Young Pueblo that said essentially that I cannot make you happy, but I can commit to supporting you in creating your own happiness. And that is asteya in action. It is saying that I refuse to rob you of the opportunity to be the hero of your own life, but I am going to sit by your side and I'm going to celebrate you. I'm going to hold space with you when you grieve, and I'm going to honor that you are walking your own journey and not try to rob you of that experience in creating your own joy or grieving your own sorrow. And this has been such a beautiful, beautiful thing to witness in my friendship with Stevie as we walk these incredibly opposing paths right now, in the way that, she has shown up to celebrate my marriage. She's shown up to celebrate my pregnancy. And I have shown up to literally hold her as she grieves. And really, there's just nothing more beautiful than that we honor each other and that we refuse to rob each other of our own experiences or to try to fix or change what the other person is feeling. And it's such a joyful gift that we have, despite everything else going on, that this friendship has, we've actually, I feel like, gotten better at doing these things because we've been challenged to do it in the hardest ways. And it's been really cool to witness. Finally, we have a parigraha. So a parigraha is non-possessiveness or non-coveting, non-comparison. And my teacher has a couple of ways of describing this. One is, if you're not coveting, you're grateful, right? So instead of taking sort of the negative framing of the word, switching it into the positive, what is a parigraha? It is gratitude. And when you are grateful, you don't hoard because you feel like you have enough. You don't compare yourself with others because you know you are enough. You don't you aren't jealous of others and covet what they have because you are grateful for the abundance in your own life. And this is why my teacher, Robert Bernberg, describes this yama as enoughness, because you are enough. You have enough. You're beautiful enough. You're strong enough. You're intelligent enough. You're creative enough. You're unique enough, you're kind enough, right? And that's like radical in comparison to the way that we tend to live our lives. I don't know where you're tuning in from, but here in Orange County, this is the land of not enoughness. This is the land of my abs aren't fit enough. My car isn't cool enough. My phone isn't new enough. Like, that's the motto of Orange County. And the sutras, because yoga is contrary action aimed at refinement. So instead of going with the status quo of berating myself for not being good enough, I get to decide that I am going to show up in my friendships with Stevie and with all my other lovely, amazing, empowered friends in a way where I am showing up as believing that I am enough, that I have enough, and being grateful for all the resources, all of my qualities. And when I show up like that, then guess what? I don't lean on my friend to make me feel better. I don't expect friendship to fill me up. I don't expect their ability or use my friendship to fill me